Chapter 2.4, Venn diagrams with three sets and verification of equality of sets. So I gave an example in the previous chapter that utilized a three-set Venn diagram. Now we're going to explore that a little bit further, exactly what rules apply and what changes. And then we'll look at how we can tell when particular sets or combinations of sets through set operations end up actually being equal to each other, which is another thing that I hinted at when I spoke of De Morgan's law. So first, when we have three sets, we end up with 8 regions. So remember that when I introduced the two-set Venn diagram, I labeled them 1, 2, 3, and region 4. Now we can see we end up with these 4 extra regions that we didn't account for before. So region 5 is the one we'll start with, and you'll see in later examples why we really want to think from the inside out when working with these Venn diagrams. We'll see some problems where that's going to be very important. So region 5 is where all 3 circles have overlapped, so it's elements that are common to all 3 sets. And we would write this using the set operations, A intersect with B intersect with C, because it is the intersection of all 3 circles, which is all 3 sets. Region 2 is elements in both A and B that are not in region 5. So in other words, it's the elements in region A and B that aren't in C. So if we take A intersect B, that would normally be this entire sort of eyeball-shaped area, but we want to remove anything that also happens to be in C because that would have been accounted for in region 5. So to do that, we take A intersect with B and subtract C. We take the difference with C because remember what that does is that just takes anything that's in C and removes it. Region 4 is going to be very similar. This is elements in A and C that are not in region 5. So in other words, not in B. So this ends up being A intersected with C minus B. And region 7, again, similar. Elements both in B and C that are not listed in region 5. So in B and C, but not in A. So B intersected with C, and then we remove anything in A. So regions 1, 3, and, this is 7, sorry, I said the wrong number. Regions 1, 3, and 7 have elements in just one set. So in other words, these elements are only in A, so it's A minus the union of B and C, because the union of B and C is all of this. So if we remove that union, we're left with just A. This is B minus the union of A and C, because the union of A and C is this area, right? So we're left with just things in B, anything that's not in common with either A or C. And C minus A union B, same argument. So of course our last one is region 8, and this is just elements that are in none of these sets. So they're part of the universal set, but don't fall into any of the given categories here. So let's look at an example. Human blood is classified or typed according to the presence or absence of the specific antigens A, B, and Rh in the red blood cells. Antigens are highly specified proteins and carbohydrates that will trigger the production of antibodies in the blood to fight infection. Blood containing the Rh antigen is labeled positive, while blood lacking the Rh antigen is labeled negative. So blood lacking both A and B is called type O. So if we wanted to create a Venn diagram of all the possible combinations of antigens that are present, this would actually end up being a 3-part Venn diagram. So here we have facts. There are 3 possible antigens, A, B, and Rh. So if we name these 3 sets, A, B, and Rh, then we can label the parts, each of the regions, based on whether or not we have A, we have B, we have Rh, right? So if it has Rh, it's positive. If it doesn't have RH, it's negative. And anything without A or B is called O. So, to start labeling, this area right here, region 1, is just A. It doesn't have RH, so it ends up being negative. So this is A, negative. And similarly, same argument, this is just B, no RH intersection, so it's B, negative. And in here, we have AB, negative, for the same reasoning, where A and B are both there, but there's no RH. Now, everything in the RH circle ends up being positive. So this here would be A positive, B positive, AB positive. So what about region 7 and region 8? Well, that's the area that that doesn't have A or B. So without A or B is O. So here's O and here's O. This one has RH, so it's positive and negative, like so. So this is a real-world example of where we can use these Venn diagrams to sort of help organize our thoughts on all the different types of blood types. Now, what about when we want to do a bunch of set operations and figure out whether or not these operations end up giving us equivalent sets? So to verify set statements are equal for any two sets selected, we use deductive reasoning with Venn diagrams. Remember, deductive reasoning means we're proving our answer is always true. So that is, if both statements represent the same regions of the Venn diagram, then the statements are equal for all sets A and B. So, which of the following is true? I've already given the answer to this one in the previous slideshow, but now we're going to actually explore it a little bit more in depth. So here we have A intersect B complement. Is that equal to A complement intersect B complement or A complement union B complement? So to start, we're going to find what is A intersect B complement. Well, A intersect B is this region in the middle, right? It's the intersection where A and B overlap. So their complement ends up being the outside, everything except this middle area, right? So now let's take a look at the parts that make up A complement intersect B complement and A complement union B complement. So A is, of course, this circle A, making A complement everything outside of A, and B complement everything outside of B. So do we want to intersect or union these two things in order to get us to this region, right? Here we're not including the intersection between the two of them. So do I want to unite this and this, or do I want to intersect these two? Well, their intersection, what's in common? What did I color twice? What I colored twice is this outer region, right? That gets colored 2 times, whereas nothing else does. So their intersection ends up looking like this. But their union, the union is just what did I ever color in, I want to keep. So here I colored in this area, here I colored in this area, so all 3 areas should be colored in when I take their union. And thus, we have everything except the intersection, right? Which is what we were looking for. So A intersect B complement is equal to A complement union B complement. This is called De Morgan's law. Now, De Morgan has 2 laws in this case. These laws, there's actually more to De Morgan's laws, but these are the 2 main ones. So a pair of related theorems known as De Morgan's laws make it possible to change statements and formulas into more convenient forms. So sometimes it will be useful to sort of distribute the complement into a parenthetical. Whenever we do this, we flip the our union or intersection. So we're basically taking that symbol and flipping it upside down. So we get A intersect B complement equals A complement union B complement, and A union B complement is equal to A complement intersect B complement. So we have flipped, when we bring that complement in, we flip our symbol. Union becomes intersection, intersection becomes union. And so these are the pictures of what those would generally look like. So A union B is, of course, all of this, so its complement ends up being the outside. And we've already seen where A complement intersect B complement comes from. Now there's a lot of other sorts of equalities we could talk about. That's just generally an example of how we figure out whether two set operations end up being equal. But those are ones that you should remember are equivalent. But there are other situations where we can say, is this equal to that? So for example, we have an example here. Are these two equal to each other? The way to figure that out is simply to make their Venn diagrams, figure out what parts would be colored in, and show that, in fact, we color in the same sets. So I will just actually show the example to the practice here. For both of these, we end up coloring in this area. So that's how we can prove deductively that has to be the answer.